Gravitation. Introduction. Can you recall? 1. What are the effects of a force acting on an object? Answer. A. A force can be set a body in motion. Example, a steady car gets motion on pushing it. B. A force can stop a moving body. Example, a moving car can be brought to rest by application of brakes. C. A force acting on a body can change the speed of the body. Example, when brakes are applied to a moving car, its speed decreases. D. A force can change the direction of motion of the body. Example, a volleyball player applies force to change the direction of ball. E. A force can change the speed as well as the direction of the motion of the body. Example, when a ball bowled by a bowler is hit by a batsman, there occurs a change in the speed as well as the direction of the motion of the ball. F. A force can change the shape and size of the body on which it acts. Example, when a spherical clay ball is pressed, it gets deformed and hence no longer remains spherical. Also, there can be a decrease in its volume. 2. What type of forces are you familiar with? Answer. Gravitational force, nuclear force, and electromagnetic force. 3. What do you know about the gravitational force? Answer. The gravitational force is a universal force. That is, it acts between any two objects in the universe. We have seen in the previous standard that the gravitational force is a universal force and it acts not only between two objects on the earth but also between any two objects in the universe. Let us now learn how this force was discovered. Gravitation. As we have learnt, the phenomenon of gravitation was discovered by Sir Isaac Newton. As the story goes, he discovered the force by seeing an apple fall from a tree on the ground. He wondered why all apples fall vertically downward and not an angle to the vertical. Why do they not fly off in a horizontal direction? After much thought, he came to the conclusion that the earth must be attracting the apple towards itself, and this attractive force must be directed towards the center of the earth. The direction from the apple on the tree to the center of the earth is the vertical direction at the position of the apple, and thus the apple falls vertically downwards. Shows an apple tree on the earth. The force on an apple on the tree is towards the center of the earth, that is, along the perpendicular from the position of the apple to the surface of the earth. The figure also shows the gravitational force between the earth and the moon. The distances in the figure are not according to scale. Newton thought that if the force of gravitation acts on apples on the tree at different heights from the surface of the earth, can it also act on objects at even greater heights, much farther away from the earth, like for example the moon? Can it act on even farther objects like the other planets and the sun? Use of ICT. Collect videos and PPTs about the gravitational force of different planets. Force and motion. We have seen that a force is necessary to change the speed as well as the direction of motion of an object. Can you recall? What are Newton's laws of motion? Answer. The Newton's law of motion are as follows. 1. Newton's first law of motion. An object continues to remain at rest or in the state of uniform motion along a straight line unless an external unbalanced force acts on it. 2. Newton's second law of motion. The rate of change of momentum is proportional to the applied force and the change of momentum occurs in the direction of the force. 3. Newton's third law of motion. Every action force has an equal and opposite reaction force which acts simultaneously. Introduction to Scientist. Great scientists. Sir Isaac Newton, 1642 to 1727, was one of the greatest scientists of recent times. He was born in England. He gave his laws of motion, equations of motion, and theory of gravity in his book Principia. Before this book was written, Kepler had given 3 laws describing planetary motions. However, the reason why planets move in the way described by Kepler's laws was not known. Newton, with his theory of gravity, mathematically derived Kepler's laws. In addition to this, Newton did groundbreaking work in several areas including light, heat, sound, and mathematics. He invented a new branch of mathematics. This is called calculus and has wide-ranging applications in physics and mathematics. He was the first scientist to construct a reflecting telescope. Circular motion and centripetal force. Try this. Tie a stone to one end of a string. Take the other end in your hand and rotate the string so that the stone moves along a circle as shown in figure. Are you applying any force on the stone? In which direction is this force acting? How will you stop this force from acting? What will be the effect on the stone? As long as we are holding the string, we are pulling the stone towards us, that is, towards the center of the circle, and are applying a force towards it. The force stops acting if we release the string. In this case, the stone will fly off along a straight line which is the tangent to the circle at the position of the stone when the string is released, because that is the direction of its velocity at that instant of time. You may recall that we have performed a similar activity previously in which a 5 rupee coin kept on a rotating circular disc flies off the disc along the tangent to the disc. Thus, a force acts on any object moving along a circle and it is directed towards the center of the circle. This is called the centripetal force. Centripetal means center seeking. That is, the object tries to go towards the center of the circle because of this force. You know that the moon, which is the natural satellite of the earth, goes round it in a definite orbit. The direction of motion of the moon as well as its speed constantly changes during this motion. Do you think some force is constantly acting on the moon? What must be the direction of this force? How would its motion have been if no such force acted on it? Do the other planets in the solar system revolve around the sun in a similar fashion? Is similar force acting on them? What must be its direction? From the above activity, example and questions, it is clear that for the moon to go around the earth, there must be a force which is exerted on the moon, and this force must be exerted by the earth, which attracts the moon towards itself. Similarly, the sun must be attracting the planets, including the earth, towards itself. Kepler's laws. Planetary motion had been observed by astronomers since ancient times. Before Galileo, all observations of the planets' positions were made with naked eyes. By the 16th century, a lot of data were available about planetary positions and motion. Johannes Kepler studied these data. He noticed that the motion of planets follows certain laws. He stated 3 laws describing planetary motion. These are known as Kepler's laws. Kepler's first law. The orbit of a planet is an ellipse with the sun at one of the foci, the elliptical orbit of a planet revolving around the sun. The position of the sun is indicated by S. Kepler's second law. The line joining the planet and the sun sweeps equal areas in equal intervals of time. A, B and CD are distances covered by the planet in equal time. That is, after equal intervals of time, the positions of the planet starting from A and C are shown by B and D respectively. The straight lines AS and CS sweep equal area in equal interval of time. That is, area ASB and CSD are equal. Kepler's third law. The square of its period of revolution around the sun is directly proportional to the cube of the mean distance of a planet from the sun. Thus, if r is the average distance of the planet from the sun and t is its period of revolution, then t square is directly proportional to r cube, that is, t square upon r cube is equal to constant is equal to k, statement 1. Kepler obtained these laws simply from the study of the positions of planets obtained by regular observations. He had no explanation as to why planets obey these laws. We will see below how these laws helped Newton in the formulation of his theory of gravitation. Use your brain power. If the area ESF in figure is equal to area ASB, what will you infer about EF? Answer. If the area ESF in figure is equal to area ASB, we can infer about EF as follows. The time taken by the planet to move from E to F is equal to the time taken by the planet to move from A to B. Do you know? An ellipse is the curve obtained when a cone is cut by an inclined plane. It has 2 focal points. The sum of the distances to the 2 focal points from every point on the curve is constant. F1 and F2 are 2 focal points of the ellipse shown in figure. If A, B and C are 3 points on the ellipse, then AF1 plus AF2 is equal to BF1 plus BF2 is equal to CF1 plus CF2. Use your brain power. If the area ESF in figure is equal to area ASB, what will you infer about EF? Newton's universal law of gravitation. All the above considerations, including Kepler's laws, led Newton to formulate his theory of universal gravity. According to this theory, every object in the universe attracts every other object with a definite force. This force is directly proportional to the product of the masses of the two objects and is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. An introduction to scientists. Johannes Kepler, 1571 to 1630, was a German astronomer and mathematician. He started working as a helper to the famous astronomer Tycho Brahe in Prague in 1600. After the sudden death of Brahe in 1601, Kepler was appointed as the royal mathematician in his place. Kepler used the observations of planetary positions made by Brahe to discover the laws of planetary motion. He wrote several books. His work was later used by Newton in postulating his law of gravitation. Figure shows two objects with masses m1 and m2 kept at a distance d from each other. Mathematically, the gravitational force of attraction between these two bodies can be written as F is directly proportional to m1 m2 upon d square, or F is equal to g m1 m2 upon d square. Statement 2. Here, g is the constant of proportionality and is called the universal gravitational constant. The above law means that if the mass of one object is doubled, the force between the two objects also doubles. Also, if the distance is doubled, the force decreases by a factor of 4. If the two bodies are spherical, the direction of the force is always along the line joining the centers of the two bodies, and the distance between the centers is taken to be d. In case when the bodies are not spherical or have irregular shape, then the direction of force is along the line joining their centers of mass, and d is taken to be the distance between the two centers of mass. From equation 2, it can be seen that the value of g is the gravitational force acting between two unit masses kept at a unit distance away from each other. Thus, in SI units, the value of g is equal to the gravitational force between two masses of 1 kg kept 1 meter apart. The center of mass of an object is the point inside or outside the object at which the total mass of the object can be assumed to be concentrated. The center of mass of a spherical object having uniform density is at its geometrical center. The center of mass of any object having uniform density is at its centroid. Why did Newton assume inverse square dependence on distance in his law of gravitation? He was helped by Kepler's third law in this, as shown below. Use your brain power. Show that in SI units, the unit of g in Newton m square per kg square, the value of g was first experimentally measured by Henry Cavendish. In SI units, its value is 6.673 into 10 raised to minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. Answer. According to Newton's law of gravitation, the gravitational force between two particles is given by the formula F is equal to g m1 m2 upon r square, where m1 and m2 are the measures of the two particles, r is the distance between them, and g is the universal constant of gravitation. From the above formula, we get g is equal to fr square upon m1 m2. The SI unit of the force is Newton, N. That of distance is meter, m. and that of mass is the kilogram, kg. Therefore, SI unit of G is equal to Newton meter square per kg square. Uniform circular motion, magnitude of centripetal force. Consider an object moving in a circle with constant speed. We have seen earlier that such a motion is possible only when the object is constantly acted upon by a force directed towards the center of the circle. This force is called the centripetal force. If m is the mass of the object, v is its speed, and r is the radius of the circle, then it can be shown that this force is equal to F is equal to m v square upon r. If a planet is revolving around the Sun in a circular orbit in uniform circular motion, then the centripetal force acting on the planet towards the Sun must be F is equal to mv square upon r, where m is the mass of the planet, v is its speed, and r is its distance from the Sun. Speed is equal to distance travelled upon time taken. The speed of the planet can be expressed in terms of the period of revolution t as follows. The distance travelled by the planet in one revolution is equal to perimeter of the orbit 2 pi r. R is equal to distance of the planet from the Sun. Time taken is equal to period of revolution is equal to t. V is equal to distance travelled upon time taken is equal to 2 pi r upon t. F is equal to mv square upon r is equal to m 2 pi r upon t square upon r is equal to 4 m pi square r upon t square. Multiplying and dividing by r square, we get F is equal to 4 m pi square upon r square is equal to r cube upon t square. According to Kepler's third law, t square upon r cube is equal to k. F is equal to 4 m pi square upon r square k, but 4 m pi square upon k is equal to constant. Thus, Newton concluded that the centripetal force, which is the force acting on the planet and is responsible for its circular motion, must be inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the planet and the Sun. Newton identified this force with the force of gravity and hence postulated the inverse square law of gravitation. The gravitational force is much weaker than other forces in nature, but it controls the universe and decides its future. This is possible because of the huge masses of planets, stars, and other constituents of the universe. Use your brain power. Is there a gravitational force between two objects kept on a table or between you and your friend sitting next to you? If yes, why don't the two move towards each other? Answer: yes. There is a gravitational force between two objects kept on a table or between me and my friend sitting next to me. Two objects kept on a table do not move towards each other because there is a force of friction between each object and the table. Similarly, because there is a force of friction between my body and the floor, and same with my friend. Hence, do not move towards each other. Solved examples. Example 1. Mahindra and Virat are sitting at a distance of 1 meter from each other. Their masses are 75 kg and 80 kg respectively. What is the gravitational force between them? Given R is equal to 1 meter, m1 is equal to 75 kg, m2 is equal to 80 kg, and g is equal to 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 nm square upon kg square. According to Newton's law, F is equal to gm1 m2 upon r square. F is equal to 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 into 75 into 80 upon 1 square n is equal to 4.002 into 10 raised to minus 7 n. The gravitational force between Mahindra and Virat is 4.002 into 10 raised to minus 7 n. This is a very small force. If the force of friction between Mahindra and the bench on which he is sitting is 0, then he will start moving towards Virat under the action of this force. We can calculate his acceleration and velocity by using Newton's laws of motion. Example 2. In the previous example, assuming that the bench on which Mahindra is sitting is frictionless, starting with 0 velocity, what will be Mahindra's velocity of motion towards Virat after 1 second? Will this velocity change with time, and how? Given, force on Mahindra is equal to F is equal to 4.002 into 10 raised to minus 7 n. Mahindra's mass is equal to m is equal to 75 kg. According to Newton's second law, the acceleration produced by the force on Mahindra is equal to m is equal to 75 kg. A is equal to F upon m is equal to 4.002 into 10 raised to minus 7 upon 75 is equal to 5.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 meters per second square. Using Newton's first equation, we can calculate Mahindra's velocity after 1 second. Newton's first equation of motion is V is equal to U plus AT. As Mahindra is sitting on the bench, his initial velocity is 0. Into bracket, U is equal to 0, bracket complete. Assuming the bench to be frictionless, V is equal to 0 plus 5.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 into 1 meter per second. 5.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 meter per second. Mahindra's velocity after 1 second will be 5.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 meter per second. This is an extremely small velocity. The velocity will increase with time because of the acceleration. The acceleration will also not remain constant because as Mahindra moves towards Virat, the distance between them will decrease, causing an increase in the gravitational force, thereby increasing the acceleration as per Newton's second law of motion. Use your brain power. Assuming the acceleration in example 2 remains constant, how long will Mahindra take to move 1 centimeter towards Virat? Answer. Here, U is equal to 0. Therefore, S is equal to ut plus 1 upon 2 at square, that is equal to 0 plus 1 upon 2 at square. Therefore, t is equal to square root 2s upon a, that is equal to square root 2 into 1 into 10 raised to 2m upon 5.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 m per s square, that is equal to square root 0.3745 into 10 raised to 7 s square, that is equal to square root 3.745 into 10 raised to 6 s, that is equal to 1935 s, that is equal to 32 minutes 15 seconds. Do you know you must be knowing about the high and low tides that occur regularly in the sea. The level of sea water at any given location along seashore increases and decreases twice a day at regular intervals. High and low tides occur at different times at different places. The level of water in the sea changes because of the gravitational force exerted by the moon. Water directly under the moon gets pulled towards the moon, and the level of water there goes up, causing high tide at that place. At two places on the earth at 90 degrees from the place of high tide, the level of water is minimum, and low tides occur there as shown in figure.